Welcome to Crimepedia Podcast. This week, I'm your host. I'm Cherry. Hello to you. And with me, as always, is my true crime BFF. It is Morgan.
Hello, Cherry. How are you?
All good, thank you. Now, remind me, at the end of the show, I have some business to tell you about. So don't let me forget before we finish the show, because I'll forget and then the business will go out the window. So I've got a good case for you today, Morgan. You're going to be pleased with this one. I've got a pretty good case for you. I don't need any trigger warnings, I don't think, for this case this week. So how about you put your feet up, sit back, and let me tell you a story. Keith Lyon was a very cute 12-year-old boy with a cheeky face and ears that he'd not yet grown into. He lived with his mother Valda, his father Ken, and his little brother Peter, who was 7, in the village of Ovingdean, which is a small village very close to Brighton and Hove in East Sussex. They lived in a pretty large family home, and they were a very respectable family, all well liked. On the 4th of May 1967, Ken was preparing to play a concert at the Metropole Hotel in Brighton when police arrived asking to speak with him. That day would change the lives of the Lyon family forever. This is Crimepedia, and this is the murder of Keith Lyon. Okay, Morgan, so Keith attended Brighton Hove and Sussex Grammar School. I know how much you love Brighton, so this is a Brighton-based case for you. He was a very gifted classical musician, and obviously his dad had musical genes. He was a band leader. His dad was a really popular man. Everybody knew the family in the area. And Keith was a bright student. He enjoyed going to school. And I don't know if the difference over there in America, but over here, you have like your normal public schools that everybody goes to, like your normal schools. Then you have like grammar schools and private schools. So a grammar school would be at the end. When I was a kid, I don't know if it's still the same now, but when I was a kid, when you turned like the last year of primary school, so say like age 10 to 11, you would take some exams called the 11 plus. And when you take the 11 plus, if you scored high enough on it, you would be able to then apply for grammar school, which is a posher school than the normal kind of like normal state school kind of thing. If some kids went to private schools, boarding schools and stuff like that, but a grammar school was like a bit slightly more gifted school when I was a kid. So I did pass my 11 plus, but I didn't go to grammar school because grammar school was an all girls school in my area, and I did not want to go to an all girls school. So I passed up that opportunity.
Oh, of course not.
Of course not. Of course. So on the 4th of May in 1967, it was a day that Peter and Keith got paid their pocket money. So they were paid 4 shillings, which is equivalent to around £3 in today's money. The boys were very excited to go shopping and spend their money. It was a beautiful day that day. Keith had been given his money and was planning to buy a geometry set for school. So he lived in the village of Ovingdean, as I said. And if you are from that area and I'm not pronouncing it right, I do apologise on that. But that's how I'm reading it. That's how I'm saying it. So Ovingdean only had a small local shop that didn't stock things like geometry sets and stuff like that. So it would mean that he would need to go to another village or another town to go and buy the set. So he left at around 3 p.m, his home, and headed off to the village of Ovingdean. Now, this was a short walk of about 1.5 miles away. Looking on Google, it says it would take approximately 36 minutes to walk this area, and it would take him over a bridleway, which would go all the way across and then into this village of Ovingdean. This area that he would cross over was known locally as Happy Valley. That would take him near Brighton, almost like right on the coast. You could look out and see the coast. It is a gorgeous area. It would have been a lovely walk that day because it was such good weather. At around 4:15, a 16-year-old girl was walking her dog. Now, she was a student at the private girls' school, which is just in that area. And the private girls' school was called Rodine, and it overlooks the English Channel, so you can actually see the sea from the school. As she approached the bridleway with her dog, which I think was a black and white collie from what I can remember, she saw the body of a young boy in some bushes on a grassy bank just off of the bridleway. As I understand it, it looked like the body had just been rolled down a bank and had sort of landed haphazardly in a bush. So she could see from the bridleway down into the bush where the body was. The body was the body of a young boy, and it was heavily bloodstained. Now, she knew it was a child because he was wearing a Brighton Hove and Sussex grammar school uniform. It was a Saturday, so I'm not quite sure why the kid was still dressed in school uniform, because it was a weekend. But anyway, that's by the by. The girl was obviously very, very upset. It was not a very nice scene to come across. So she ran back to school to raise the alarm. Or back home. I've read two different, back home and back to school. Being a Saturday, I'm not sure if anybody was at the school, but it might have been that something was on at the school, and that's why she ran back to the school. I also think they were boarding. Okay. It was a private girls' school, so I also believe they were boarders there. So it meant that there would be staff on site anyway, even on a weekend.
Which would mean if she's running back home, that means she's going back to school. Okay. Yeah, that would make sense, right?
That would make sense, yeah. So police obviously were on scene very quickly. They cornered off the area and they started a full investigation. Obviously, this is, on first look at this, a heavily blooded child. It wasn't sure straight away if it was a murder investigation, but on closer inspection, it was quite obvious that it was. It was confirmed that the little boy was Keith Lyon. Now, he was fully clothed, but his pockets had been pulled out as if they had been searched. So, like when you pull the linings of your pockets out, you'd get that like funnily kind of look. His money was missing. His keys were also missing. Now, he, obviously, as I mentioned, he was heavily bloodstained, and later at the post-mortem, they would conclude that he had 11 stab wounds to his stomach, back and chest. There was no sign of a murder weapon at the scene, but the pathologist had said that it was believed to have been a long-bladed, sharp, serrated knife. Okay. The scale of the police investigation was huge. It was absolutely massive. They set up an incident room nearby at a local primary school, and officers and dogs were used to search the whole of the local area. Like, they went in on this. They had so many officers and searching everywhere. They searched homes, they searched the schools, they searched the whole area, like the whole Happy Valley area. They used dogs. They also had this massive, it's huge. It's a magnetic mine detector from the local, I think it's the army camp, Aldermaston camp. And this machine was capable of taking out metal from under the ground. It would draw the metal up through the earth. So they used this to comb like the local area to see if somebody had like thrown the knife or anything, his keys or anything, that it would drag it back to this magnet. Unfortunately, there was nothing that the magnet managed to find. A few days after Keith's murder, a group of boys were playing in their school, which is a local boys' school. I believe Fitzherbert School is a normal kind of, I would say, state school. It's the normal school that the local kids would go to. So it's not a grammar, it's not a posh school, it's not a boarding school. They were actually playing in the school grounds, and they found a blood-stained serrated knife with a broken tip. Now, this knife had like a white handle, and it was, I don't know if you do it anymore over there. I don't think we do it so much here, but back when I was a kid, sometimes like on like cereal packets, say, or on like washing machine packet or like washing powder packets, you could collect certain things. They would give you certain things away, and every time you bought them, hopefully you would get like a different one or the same ones in a set. So this knife was actually a steak knife, which was part of a set that you could collect through these washing powder boxes. So like mum could, every time she did the washing and bought a new one, she could collect like a set of 6 steak knives, which I thought was just like mind blowing that they give away knives. I know.
With washing powder, yeah.
With washing powder. So like, yeah, and it was a knife that was, vastly produced. It wasn't a special, somebody's special set, and it was something that a lot of households actually had. On this knife, when they did the testing, it actually did match the blood of Keith Lyon. So we now know that we've got the murder weapon.
So, was this in the same area as where his body was found then?
No, it's not too far away, but it's not right where his body was found, but it was found on the school grounds.
Of the boys' school?
Of the boys' school, yeah.
Okay.
So there are like 3 schools in the area. You've got the girls' school, Rodine. You've got Fitzherbert, which is the boys' school, which is the local school for like boys and girls. And then you've got the grammar school, which is the school that Keith went to. So you've got 3. And then you've got primary schools and stuff like that. All of these kids' ages is there's like the secondary school. So it would be from 11 upwards.
I keep thinking about this whole, like, his pockets were pulled out. As in, like, someone's rummaging, trying to you wouldn't imagine like a 12-year-old having money, right?
No.
I mean, you wouldn't if driving past or walking past, a 12-year-old, you're not like, oh my, I'm going to rob this person because this is a good person to rob. I mean, chances are they're not going to have money.
Yeah.
So to me, this sounds like this is someone that knew that he had something on him. That's
what it sounded like to me to start with. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Because like you say, you wouldn't expect a small child to have money.
And he did have money on him that day, of course, right?
Yeah, but hold that thought.
Okay.
So the police decided that they would stage a reconstruction but it would not be feasible to have a small child lie covered in blood in bushes, for this to happen. So what they did was they went to a local tailor's and borrowed a wax dummy, dressed it in the identical clothes to what Keith was wearing that day, and then staged a reconstruction to see if anybody would remember this. Now, don't forget, this is 1967. So this is before, DNA, the DNA that we know now, the DNA processing, before all of this happened. This was a long time ago. And the same with reconstructions. Reconstructions were very different back then. This reconstruction worked really well, though, because 2 female witnesses came forward to say that they saw 4 boys fighting near some bushes on the bridleway the afternoon of the murder. They later said that later on that afternoon, they saw 3 of the youths running across nearby fields. A bus driver also came forward to say that he was the driver of the number 3 bus, and he had picked up 2 young males at Vines Cross, and that they had gone to the nearby White Hawk estate and got off at the garage, appearing to be in a very, very agitated state. So these 2 boys talked non-stop to each other, hushed talking the whole of the trip. It's not a very long trip between the 2, but I would say it's maybe a good 10 minutes on the bus. And apparently he said that they were in hushed conversation, and he remembered them because they looked so agitated. Now, evidence suggested that people, or whoever was there at the scene, or whoever had actually killed Keith, would have been covered in a lot of blood. There was a lot of blood, and police found that there was evidence at a local memorial cemetery that somebody had used one of the public toilets in the cemetery. Now, this was Lawn Memorial Park. When the police went in there, they had found that somebody had been in the public toilets cleaning blood off of themselves. They had obviously done this in a hurry because the blood had splashed all up the walls as the person was using the sink and the water. Because of the location of where the toilets were in the village, the police believed that the person that used them would be somebody local, because you wouldn't necessarily know that those public toilets are where they are if you weren't local to the area. So that gave police quite a good idea that possibly the perpetrator or perpetrators of this were local people. Now, there were 2 types of blood found in that toilet, one of which was Keith's. The other has not been discovered, but there were bloody fingerprints which they also took from the toilet.
Okay.
Strange, isn't it? Now, a few weeks later, the police received some letters sent to the local police station, handwritten letters sent to the local police station saying, and I read through them, and one of them sort of says, "I know who murdered Keith Lyon." And then another one says, I know who murdered him, but I can't tell because I might get a knife in my back. And there was no postmark to these. These were I think they were hand delivered, as far as I could read online. I think they were hand delivered, and the writing that I read, it wasn't really neat writing. It was capitalized from what I could see. And it wasn't very neat. So the police sort of weren't sure whether this was a hoax, because there was nothing in the letters that was of any notable difference to what had been, published locally or what had been let out to the public, basically. So they kind of took those letters with a pinch of salt, because there was nothing really. I mean, had they have said, oh, it happened here and it was at this time and I was present, and it would be a bit different, but there was nothing in them that would make you think that this person knew more than what they were saying.
See, I don't know. What would be the purpose of doing something like that? Saying, I
I
know who
don't
did it,
know.
and
Yeah.
just being very vague. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of times, like, let's say it was someone who actually committed the murder or had been a witness.
Mm.
You would think that the two reasons would be either to torment, right, the
Yeah.
police and the families,
Yeah.
or B, you feel bad about it, so you wanna try to help. But in sending a letter
Offload
which
because
is
you feel
absolutely no
guilty.
help at all,
Mm.
yeah, it's you sending a letter is no hope at all, or no help at all. It's like, well, what's the point then?
Mm.
So it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I think I would take a very hesitant approach towards it if if
Yeah.
I were police,
I agree.
especially if there's nothing that really significant, that's significant in it, or there's nothing that indicates, okay, this person is telling the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing. There's
So
nothing
I don't
like
know.
there's no sort of key evidence that they've put in there that you kind of think, oh yeah, this person must have been on scene, or this
Yeah.
person must know that because of this reason. There's nothing really. It was just literally, I know who killed him. I can't tell because I might get a knife in my back. That was it. There's nothing like
Right.
that. Nothing.
So
Well,
I
so
mean,
let
the
me
other
say, nothing
option.
that was released. Nothing was released to the public. If there was
Okay.
any other things in the letters they didn't say, that's all they said.
Or it could be a youth, right? That sounds
Mm.
like it almost comes across as being a childish thing to do,
I
to be sending a
agree.
letter like that.
Yeah.
Um, where maybe you can't really comprehend or grasp like what you should do or can do, or like what this letter is gonna do. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe they just felt bad and they just wanted to send it like, I know what happened, and I wish I could help, but I'm scared. So
Yes.
it does sound like something a youth would send.
I agree. I agree with you. I mean, there was a coroner's court inquest into Keith's death. Now, this was in December 1967. Despite all the
Mhm.
hard work of the police and the investigators, the investigation was still at a standstill. Police had taken 6,000 finger and palm prints of local kids, I think between the ages of like
Wow.
14 and 21. They had carried out more
Okay.
than 75,000 house-to-house inquiries, and they had taken over 2,000 written statements after interviewing like 2,000 kids from more than 15 schools in the area. So you can see that
Why
what
would
the
they start
police
at
is. Mm,
why would they start at 14?
I'm not sure, unless they've got
If it was a
intelligence that
13-year
tells
old,
them. Yeah,
but if it was a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old that was involved or had done
yeah,
this, yeah,
yeah,
obviously you're not going to have any matches, because
yeah,
you're saying, okay, we're going to go 14 to 21.
yeah. I'm not sure
I
why
mean,
they would. It's such a strange age to start with, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, unless there is very specific information that they have, like, okay, we know it's not no one under the age of 14, but
Yeah,
what
yeah,
information could they have which would allow them to be completely sure that's the case?
yeah. I'm not sure, but that's how they started. And I also read some. I read some words from some people locally saying that they had the parents had to give permission for these fingerprints and handprints to be taken. So some parents wouldn't give permission for their children to have their hands done. So it's not like they fingerprinted every single person in the area. They fingerprinted as many as they could. So there are children and there are youth that didn't have their fingerprints taken. I mean, locally, people were talking about likely suspects. So this is something like you just brought up. Why would they start at a certain age? There was a lot of local, I'd say gossip, but not really gossiping, but a lot of local talking and guesses about likely suspects in the case. But of course, that was just hearsay. That was just local people, Chinese whispering about what was going on. There had been some arrests in the case, but the suspects had been cleared. And the coroner's jury actually returned a verdict of murder by person or persons unknown. And Keith's case subsequently then went cold. So a year passed, and on the first year anniversary of the murder of Keith, his family offered the reward of £1,000. Now, back in 1967, £1,000 was a lot of money. I mean, still a lot of money now, but as far as rewards go, obviously we're now used to thousands and thousands of pounds in reward. But back then, it was £1,000 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of Keith's killer. Unfortunately, no new evidence, despite that, was brought to light. There was nothing. There was a glimmer of hope, though, in 1974. Okay, Detective Superintendent Jim Marshall of Sussex Police announced that new evidence had come to light. The actual evidence that had come to light wasn't publicised. It still remains a mystery now. They still haven't publicised it. It meant that once again, now the investigation was back open again, and there was a lot more people interviewed. Things started moving again, and some people were re-interviewed about Keith's murder. Now, I submitted a Freedom of Information request on this, to which I was told, again, like we've heard before, that they would only release a certain amount of information to me because there are still people alive that this could upset, which is their standard kind of phrase that they use, that there are people that still could be connected to this case that are upset. And Keith's brother Peter is actually still alive today. And I have actually read in an article that he said he is the person that's still alive. He is the person that's hurt by this. He is happy for people to look into this because he wants resolution for his brother. But of course, the office will not release any more information other than that we already have. So I did try, but unfortunately not happening. So
no go.
In 2002, so we're going now from the glimmer of hope in 74 to 2002, whilst cleaning the evidence room at a police station, the evidence from Keith's case was found in an evidence box or evidence bag. This included the knife, the clothes that Keith was wearing that day, a cigarette butt, and a blood-stained tissue. Now, following this discovery and what I guess was further testing, because now we obviously have the DNA testing in 2002 at a much, much better rate than we had in the 80s, which was still 20 or 12 years after he was murdered. They were able to retest. They retested it, and two further men were arrested in connection with Keith's murder. Now, unfortunately, after 4 months, police then confirmed again that these 2 men were no longer suspects and were now free to go. Again, they didn't actually say who these men were. We don't know. The names were never released. So Crime Watch UK made quite a few appeals on behalf of Keith's family. And you can watch them. You can go onto YouTube and you can find them. They are on there, and you can actually see the reconstructions that Crime Watch UK did. In the mid-2000s, 3 men in their 50s were arrested on suspicion of murder, but they were later released and eliminated from the inquiry. Again, none of the men were ever named in the public domain. No record of what led to their arrests. And in the Crime Watch UK appeals, it's so sad. You can hear Keith's mum, and she talks about how they found out it was Keith. And honestly, it's heartbreaking. It's horrible. It's so sad. You can see how broken she is when she talks about it. And it's really sad to hear it in her own words, because we all know that, losing your child in such a horrific way must be, completely awful. But to actually listen to a mum sit there and tell you exactly how it was actually really It was really upsetting. It was awful.
Yeah. That's really... Oh, man.
Yeah, it's horrible. She
It's
describes,
frustrating. Yeah, it is
it
awful.
is. It is. She describes in it like how they found out and how Keith's dad came home, how the police had gone to him and then he came home, and how they as a family, then dealt with the aftermath of it, and kind of things that you don't really think about at the time, things that they didn't think about at the time. And it was really sad, actually. It was. I mean, police obviously have some kind of DNA evidence now. We know that could link the murderer to the scene. We know that. So we know that Keith's murderer or murderers could not have committed any further crimes, which they would have had to have their samples taken. So we know from 1995, when the DNA database was properly in full swing, we know that they haven't committed any crimes since then, because we have fingerprints in blood. We also have DNA from the toilet. We also have the DNA from what they found at the scene, which was later retested. So we know that whoever it is hasn't committed any more since then.
Okay. Well, that we know of.
Well, that they've been arrested for. So we know that they've not committed stuff and been charged for it. So it's not somebody that's in prison already or has been in the system. We know that. We know as far as that they haven't committed any other crimes anywhere else, because there's no DNA linking them to other crime scenes or anything. So that's the one thing we do know.
So where he was found, where Keith was found, was that where he was murdered, or was that just a place where he was dumped?
They believe that was where he was murdered. Police believe that Keith was attacked on his way to buy the geometry set. There were no geometry sets found in the area. Nobody had come forward to say their kid had come home with a new geometry set that they didn't know. Possibly they did, but police believe that he was attacked on the way there, and that the MO was a robbery, which then graduated to murder. There was no signs of sexual assault, no attempts to hide the body. So the question was, why murder him if it was just a robbery to take his money? Like, why did you have to murder him? Did the situation get out of hand? Was he fighting back too much? Could the people or person not gain control of him? Did they kill him because he could identify them? Another path that police mentioned was that he was seen as, in quotes, a posh boy from a posh school.
Right.
So would it be that this is a local rivalry? Because the kids saw what uniform he was wearing, they would know that he would come from a house that has money. So chances are he would have money on him, or a watch, or something else. So could it be that he was approached by other youths that knew from the uniform that this kid was a posh kid from the posh school?
Right. I guess what I'm confused about is, when we talk about Rodine School?
Yeah.
The
That's the girls' school. Yeah.
So where was the Broadway in to where the school is? Because it seems like to me, so the school would be the opposite direction of where he would have been walking. So does that mean that the girl that found him, the Broadway would have been like above? So it would have been,
it's above. Yeah, it looks over the bridle way.
So not towards the English Channel, but toward
the other
side.
Way.
So I guess that would have been north.
So it looks over.
Okay.
It looks over the bridle way, and it looks from the school. You can look in the distance and see the channel, the English Channel. So it's got good views from there. So so it was above the bridle. So she would have walked down onto the bridle way from school.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to me, I feel like this is definitely like we'd be looking at a youth. I agree. I don't know. I don't see an adult like seeing a 12-year-old kid, and I mean, we know that there are really sick people out there who see a vulnerable person and will, have attack them, right? But the thought that, or knowing that they had went through his pockets and stole his money, I don't see an adult going, in their head going, okay, let's see what type, how much money they have on them, because
I agree.
They, like I said, most of the time you see a 12-year-old, they're not going to have anything on them.
No.
Especially in 1967.
That's right.
I mean, it's not like it's now where, a 12-year-old is going to be walking around with an iPhone or whatever. In 1967, what's the chances that a kid is going to have anything of value on them?
Exactly. So I'm the same. I'm leaning towards this is youths, and I do like the idea that the police say that he's very identifiable by the clothing that he's wearing. He's wearing a posh school uniform, so they know what school he goes to, and you know what kind of kids go to that school. You know that they're from families that can afford to pay for school, so you know that he's from a posh house. The other thing, there was one more thing with this case, which I find really strange. Okay, in 2006 it was announced that police were looking for a family, people that had emigrated to Canada with their teenage son shortly after the murder. Now, I couldn't find any names locally when I was looking in and out of different forums and different newspaper articles, and there was nothing to say who this family were. And I understand that police were unable to trace this family following the emigration.
Weird. Okay.
So I think that's very strange and very telling, because locally, surely people know who that family are.
They would have to know.
They know the names. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
All of a sudden, your
apparently
friend's
police
getting
weren't.
up and he's moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. More than likely, my family's moving to Canada. I mean, you have to know who that is, right?
Yeah, yeah. So surely somebody local could have told the police a surname or something, but police were unable to trace the family. Now, more than 50 years after Keith's murder, his brother Peter obviously is still desperate to know what happened, and he spoke to the Observer newspaper in 2019 because in 2019 police were told that a local man who had become an alcoholic had confessed his involvement in Keith's killing to his mother. Now, his mum had told a health worker in confidence that her son had confessed this to her and she didn't know what to do. Unfortunately, this man has now died. Peter says in the article, perhaps that this man had become an alcoholic because he couldn't deal with what he had done. He couldn't deal with the fact that he was part of something that ended Keith's life. And the person who passed the information, the mum who passed the information to Sussex police about this, or the mum did it in confidence, to the health worker, and the health worker felt compelled to pass this on, which I'm really glad that they did, because the hope now that is, if this man's involvement can be confirmed, his associates from school going back talking to teachers or other kids at the school, if he hung around with a couple of other kids all the time, we might then get the names of his school, his school associates, and then start to build a picture of who these kids might be. Because we have witnesses saying that these three kids were fighting with a boy, that two of them were running across a field together. The bus driver sees these agitated kids looking really worried and really scared and really vividly talking to each other, animatedly talking. So the picture is building up that this is perhaps, kids that attacked Keith. They've taken whatever was in his pockets and his keys. That's all that was missing. And they've sort of gone home. So if this guy has become an alcoholic because of the demons that he's got from that, let's hope that he can be identified properly with police, and that can help them lead to arrest. But sadly, Keith's father Ken died in 1991, and Keith's mother Valda also died in 2005, and they both died, obviously never knowing who was responsible for Keith's death. They are actually buried very close to Keith, which is probably a comfort for Peter, who now lives in New Zealand. As of today, Keith's case still remains unsolved, and we still don't know who was responsible.
All right. Well, who were the shithead bullies in 1967 in the area?
Surely the kids, surely the adults now must know who they were at school. They must have heard about Keith's murder. They must know that, there were bullies at the school. I'll tell you what I did see. There was something really strange. On YouTube, there is this video of a man called Paranormal Paul. Okay. He actually walks the bridle path at night with this, it looks like, I don't even know what it is. I don't really know much about this, but he has this mobile phone that he's videoing. and it's like this equipment that claims to detect the sound of spirits, right? And
Yeah.
I couldn't understand a word of what these spirits were saying, but he actually put word captions up, and he's going like, "Oh, Keith, your brother misses you. We need to know what happened." And then you'll hear like, and then it'll be like a flash up on the screen, and it'll be, "They stabbed me." And then he'll go, "Okay, Keith,
Whoa.
are the other spirits? You need to leave us alone. We need to let Keith speak." And then it goes back again. He says, "Keith, what happens?" And then you hear again, and it's like, "Very bad" comes up on the screen. Honestly, it's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. I've never come across a case where I've had anything like this attached to it. But if you want to have a bizarre 5 minutes, by all means, go on YouTube, look for Paranormal Paul, and look for Keith Lyon, and you can actually see the bridle path, though. It does give you a good, like a video view of the bridle path. But
okay,
honestly, it's so weird. The whole, I don't know what the device is. It looks like an iPhone. But apparently he talks to spirits and they talk back to him in some language that is not English.
God, there has to, I mean, like, this seems like, I don't want to say he's like, it should be obvious, like, who is involved. I mean,
I agree. No, I believe, I think the same.
I guarantee you, the mom of whoever, one of the kids knows it was him, because taking a steak knife like that,
mm-hmm.
having something missing like that,
mm-hmm.
a mom knows, right?
Yeah.
A mom would know, like, hey, where did my steak? Because even though this is like something that you would get in a giveaway,
you know how many knives you've got in your cupboard. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if it's a set.
And yeah, and if your kid's a shithead, right? I mean, you know that. Oh man.
The thing that really compelled me about this case is I believe this case is 100% solvable. 100%. Because kids that went to school in that school at the same time as Keith would know other schools locally. The kids that kind of stick out. So there's kids from that, there's kids from the girls' school. There's kids from the boys' school that would know the other local kids of the same age. So I know that there is somebody out there that knows the rumours from their school, because that kind of stuff gets out. If somebody's got involved in something when you're a kid and they've had a fight somewhere or they've stolen something, it gets round to the other kids. That guy from class whatever 3B last week robbed stuff out of Superdrug. You know that when you're a kid. It's the kind of stuff that gets talked about in the playgrounds and stuff.
Kids can't keep their mouth shut.
No. And so I know 100% that there are people that remember when they were at school what the rumours were. And they need to come forward to police and to say, look, when I was at school, these were the rumours. These were the kids we talked about. You need to look at them. Because the police haven't got magic wands. They need help from people. And if you don't know, you can submit intelligence to the police without having your because of data protection, your details cannot be passed on to anybody else. So you can submit anonymous feedback and intelligence to police forces. 100% anonymous. No one can know that you did that.
Yeah.
There are things in place to make sure that your identity is not known, even within the police. It will be protected so that only certain officers from certain areas can look at that detail, and you're only allowed to look at it if you have policing reason to do so. So your identity is protected. If you have information on a case like this, any case, that one thing that you think is really insignificant could be the one thing that can give officers a whole new avenue to go down. It's so important that if you see something, that you say something, because this could actually give this little boy's story, a conclusion. It could help his brother find out what happened. It's not going to make things better. There'll be no closure as such, because I hate that it gives you closure. It doesn't. It closes a chapter and allows you to start another chapter. So
Yeah.
But to have that and not understand what happened to your brother, to your son, to your friend, to not know what happened is the hardest thing.
Yep. Absolutely right.
So, yeah, if you went to that school in that area or you know someone that did, get chatting about it, get that stuff out there because it's important. And maybe one day I'll be able to do an update and say, we know what happened to Keith.
Yeah.
I don't even need to give you the names, but we know what happened. Right. And we know what happened to him.
His brother deserves to have some closure.
His brother deserves that phone call, 100%. He really does. And I hate. And I saw the picture. The picture that we have of Keith is lovely. His little face. He's such a cute kid. He's so cute, and he didn't deserve that.
No.
It's so sad. So that's this week's case
Absolutely
for you.
Not. Well, thank you for that, and hopefully one day we can have good news about Keith and in this case.
I hope so. So before we get into our dumb criminal, I just want to give you this week's business. We need to say hello to Matthew from New Zealand. He sent me a really lovely message on Instagram. It was lovely to talk to him. I hope now that you've caught up on all the episodes, because he said he was catching up on all our old episodes, and he's noticed the fact that when we very first started in the beginning, we didn't disagree on things. It's like we were frightened to disagree, whereas now we have a good old ding dong about stuff. So that is probably true. We obviously know each other so much better than we did in the beginning, so we're not frightened to upset each other anymore because it doesn't really happen. We have good healthy discussions instead.
It doesn't happen often. I mean, I think a lot of times we're on the same page. And even when we do disagree, I mean,
we're still friends.
It's civil.
Yeah. So he gave us 5 stars on Spotify. So Matthew from New Zealand, we love you. Thank you. Want to say an absolutely huge, massive well done to our friend, the Sealy athlete. She completed the London Marathon today. She is a legend. Well done to her. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go and watch her in London this weekend because I'd love to have gone and said hello. She's come all the way over from America, obviously, to run it. So well done.
That's
You're
a big
amazing.
Deal.
It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal.
Yeah,
she gives
amazing.
me like tips on running and stuff. We've also got CrimeCon Scotland happening next weekend in Glasgow, and there will be a lot of really, really good stuff going on. Unfortunately, we can't make it, but you can still go along. It's very interactive. It's very, very good. It's very up close and personal, CrimeCon Glasgow. So make sure you get your tickets. If you're in the area, it's well worth doing. There are lots of podcasters there. There are a lot of really good speakers this year. I do believe Captain will be there in Glasgow.
He will be there, yes.
So if you're a True Crime Garage supporter and you want to meet the captain, it's not as busy as London. So if you want to meet him, shake his hand and have a beer with him, by all means go up there. I'm sure. See if he looks like you think he'd look as well. That's always really funny. I like to know what people think. So, but we will both be in London in September. There are still chances to get your tickets for CrimeCon London, September 20th, 21st and 22nd. You can just go to the website, crimecon.co.uk, choose the tickets that you want. There are payment plans, so you don't have to do it all in one go. You can use Crimepedia as your code for checkout, and that will give you 10% off as well. And we'll be there doing our thing as usual, cocktail in hand. Yeah, talking true crime.
Yes, we will.
I've got new shoes for CrimeCon London. Anybody that's been before that I've seen knows I love my CrimeCon shoes. And I have new CrimeCon shoes this year. And I love them. They may or may not have body parts on them. Not real body parts.
Are they more comfortable? Are they more comfortable than some of the other shoes you've worn in the past?
Morgan. No, they are typical cherry shoes.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, so Fair enough. New shoes for London. So look out for those. Obviously, it's very important. Yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
So with that, you want to do a dumb criminal?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Hey, Captain Stupid Poopy Pants. Use a dummy.
And use a piece of shit. I love it when he says that.
Use a piece.
Yeah.
So, Cherry, this is not the first time we've had a dumb criminal like this.
Okay.
And I think anytime this happens, we need to bring it up because these might be the dumbest of the dumb. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So, a Indiana woman is facing narcotics charges after she called 911 to report purchasing an inferior batch of methamphetamine. And they say that she wanted to file charges against her drug dealer.
Oh, please tell me that you have audio of like our friend Brandon taking this 911 call. That would be the icing on the cake for this story.
That would be amazing.
That would be brilliant.
I do not. I wish I do.
I wish you did.
I need to see if I can find it, but I do not have the audio. I wish I did though. So, as alleged in a probable cause affidavit, Sarah Harris, who's 34 years old, twice made an open line call to the police emergency number, which prompted an officer to visit her residence to ensure that everything was okay. So she called twice, 911, but never said anything to the
911 is life and death, people. 911 is for life and death.
Yeah. If you want to report a bad batch of methamphetamine, call the non-emergency number.
Yeah, okay? Not 911. Yeah.
Now, during a conversation with a police captain, Harris declared that her meth was not what it was supposed to be. She explained that the drug left her feeling as though she was going to have a heart attack. Harris said she had snorted a line of the meth and felt something different when it touched her skin and nostrils. She did. Now, she noted that she and a friend had smoked a bowl of normal meth before she had obtained the meth that led her to call 911. Now, apparently believing that the local sheriff operated a better illegal business bureau.
Please test my
Harris
illegal
requested
drugs.
that the drug be tested. She also declared that she wanted to turn the person in who provided her the meth. While speaking to police at her home, she made the big mistake of handing over the meth that she had talked about. Now, the contents of the small baggie, which carried a red pig design, was field tested.
Wow.
And was positive for being methamphetamine. As a result of Harris providing the narcotics evidence, she ended up being charged for meth possession, which is a class 6 felony and carries a maximum of a 30-month prison term.
Excuse me, officer, but can you please tell my drug dealer off because
Sarah
this
Harris,
is not good enough stuff. So please sort that out for me. Oh, great. Okay, yeah, just wait there, ma'am, while I just sort that out for you. I'm really sorry that your drugs aren't right. Oh, it's crazy. That is crazy. What? She's obviously high when she did that.
So
obviously.
So there's our dumb criminal. Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. Because why would you call the police, tell them all this information, then hand it over?
Yeah, I'm in possession of all this bad drugs, not the good stuff. Please take it away. I love that. That was brilliant. Thank you.
Oh man. Let me. Have you heard about? Just to bring this up real quick. Have you heard about the gang that's been terrorizing Liverpool's city center? Trying to steal food.
Yes.
Particularly food being bought at Greg's.
I mean, do you have a Greg's over there? Do people know what Greg's is in America?
Right.
Okay, so Greg's in England
we don't have
is like
Greg's.
A fast food kind of place that does like pasties, which I think you guys sometimes call pasties, but pasties. It does like real quick kind of grab and go food. So it'll be like sausage rolls, pasties, hot like hot stuff. They do sandwiches and coffee and that kind of stuff. And it's typically done by people like on their way to work. They grab stuff like that. So it's just like a very cheap and cheerful as how I would describe it, really.
There you go. Yeah, so this gang, which has been dubbed
instead of XL bullies,
XL gullies.
I love it.
The XL gullies they've been confronting people trying to steal their lunch. There's apparently one of these seagulls, or gulls, which is considered the top level boss.
And I'm glad that you actually said that. So we are actually talking about seagulls. We're not talking about a real gang. It's actually seagulls that we're talking about. It's birds that are stealing people's lunch.
No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so they're stealing people's lunch. What was it? I was reading this here. So one person, crime reporter. This crime reporter named Patty Edrich was one of the victims. Let me just read this. So they had just purchased a margarita pizza slice from Greg's and was walking back to the office. Now, he said that I've seen baked goods swiped out of people's hands on a regular basis walking near the town hall, but you'd never think it would happen to you. Out of nowhere, this monster swooped down, beady yellow eyes glaring, and squared up, wings flapping. Now, Patty had two options. Either throw the pizza on the floor and surrender it to the hungry beast, which would then continue the throwaway culture that has led to this city seagull infestation, or deploy evasive tactics. So Patty ended up ducking behind their colleague, put their pizza in their pocket, and headed for shelter.
Seen seagulls rip food out of people's hands here. I've actually seen it happen. Yeah, people that are walking along the street that have their food ripped out of their hands by angry seagulls. It's crazy.
You know what? I've called these.
They are
shitheads
they are the dumb
these
criminals.
Seagulls
are
100%
shitheads. Bad birds. Bad birds.
Bad birds. Bad birds. So if you have Greg's,
hold on tight.
Keep an eye out for the XL gullies. They might be lurking somewhere around your neighborhood.
Someone does need to do something about these bad boys.
Someone needs to do something about them.
Thank you very much for joining us this week. It's been a pleasure. We hope that if you are in the area of where Keith's case happened, then you might have some information. Have a think about it, and if you know anything, please do say something. Give Keith's brother some kind of ending to his sad story. And we will be back in 2 weeks' time. We'll see you in a fortnight, and it'll be Morgan's case next time. So for now, be nice.
And bye.